Everyday life in the UK has changed so drastically in 2025 that many families are asking the same question. Is this still the country we once knew? From food bills that break the budget to healthcare delays that put lives at risk, these struggles are shaping the future of millions. Stay with us, because the 10th struggle may hit closer to home than you think. Number 1. Rising food prices. Families across the UK are facing the reality of grocery bills climbing faster than wages. Essentials, such as bread, milk, fruit, and vegetables, have seen sharp increases in price, making it difficult for households to maintain the same quality of diet they had only a few years ago. According to consumer research, food inflation has risen by more than double the general rate of inflation in 2025, creating a gap that many families cannot bridge. The weekly shop, once predictable, has now become an exercise in difficult choices, with parents deciding whether to prioritize healthier options or settle for cheaper, less nutritious alternatives. For families with children, this is particularly challenging, as balanced meals are central to growth and learning. The pressure extends beyond nutrition and affects the emotional well-being of households. Parents often report feeling guilty or anxious when they cannot provide the same foods their children are used to. Families are cutting back on treats, reducing portion sizes, and relying more heavily on discount supermarkets or local food banks. Studies show that food insecurity is linked not only to poorer physical health, but also to rising levels of stress and depression in both adults and children. The UK's food charities have highlighted an unprecedented demand for emergency parcels, and community kitchens have become vital for many families trying to fill the gap. This creates a cycle where struggling households feel both financial and social strain. Practical coping strategies are emerging, but they come with trade-offs. Many households are buying in bulk when possible, focusing on frozen goods rather than fresh produce, or cooking in larger batches to save on costs. Some families are even turning back to traditional practices, such as growing vegetables in small garden patches, or joining local allotments to supplement their diets. While these strategies provide some relief, they do not solve the underlying issue of rising prices that continue to outpace income. The experience of going to the supermarket, once ordinary, now feels like a reminder of shrinking stability. For many families, each trip raises the same question: how much longer can they sustain this struggle before food becomes an even more serious daily crisis? Number 2. Housing instability. The dream of having a secure home in the UK feels further away than ever in 2025. Rents have surged to record levels, and mortgage repayments are rising sharply due to interest rate hikes. Families who once managed comfortably are now struggling to cover monthly housing costs, with many forced to spend more than half of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Urban areas, especially London, Manchester and Birmingham, have become almost unaffordable for average households, pushing people to relocate to smaller towns or rural regions. This shift creates additional pressures, as moving away often means longer commutes, fewer job opportunities, and separation from extended family networks. Housing charities consistently warn that the number of families at risk of eviction or homelessness is climbing at a pace not seen in decades. Beyond finances, the emotional toll of instability is immense. Families live in constant uncertainty, never knowing when a landlord might raise rent or sell the property, forcing them to move again. Children experience disruptions in schooling, friendships, and community ties when families are displaced, which affects their education and mental well-being. Parents, on the other hand, often face sleepless nights worrying about arrears, legal notices, or the fear of becoming homeless. Research has shown that unstable housing situations are directly linked to higher stress levels, poorer health outcomes, and reduced academic performance for children. For many families, the idea of home has shifted from a place of comfort to a source of anxiety. Families have tried various coping methods, but each comes with compromises. Some have taken on shared housing arrangements, sacrificing privacy to cut costs. Others move into smaller flats, downsizing drastically even as family needs grow. A growing number of households are applying for government housing support, but the demand far outstrips the availability of social housing, leaving thousands on waiting lists. Some families are relocating entirely, moving to less expensive regions of the UK, or even emigrating in search of stability. These strategies provide temporary relief, but they do not address the larger structural crisis. Housing, once seen as the cornerstone of family security, has become one of the greatest struggles for UK households. Number 3. Energy bills and heating costs. One of the most pressing struggles for families in the UK during 2025 is the relentless rise of energy bills. Gas and electricity prices have soared due to global supply chain pressures and reduced domestic production, leaving households with little choice but to cut back. Families who once kept their homes comfortably warm during the winter now face agonizing decisions: heat or eat. The government has introduced some relief programs, yet many families still find themselves falling into arrears as their monthly bills consume a significant share of their income. Cold homes are not only uncomfortable but also linked to respiratory illnesses, particularly among children and the elderly, making this issue as much about health as it is about finance. The emotional weight of this crisis is undeniable. Parents struggle with guilt as they see their children wrapped in extra layers indoors or relying on hot water bottles instead of central heating. Families are limiting heating to just 1 or 2 rooms, leaving the rest of the home uncomfortably cold. For many, evenings are now spent in the smallest, warmest spaces, reducing family life to survival mode rather than comfort. Scientific studies on energy poverty confirm that prolonged exposure to cold housing environments increases risks of cardiovascular disease and mental health issues. This reality transforms what should be a safe haven into a place of hardship. The stress caused by these choices is compounded when bills arrive, often higher than expected, leaving households feeling trapped in a cycle of debt and anxiety. Families are turning to adaptive strategies, but they often come with significant sacrifices. Some use community warm banks, public buildings where people can gather to stay heated, while others shift to cooking only once a day to save electricity. Installing energy-efficient appliances or solar panels remains out of reach for most lower and middle-income families due to high upfront costs. Instead, simple measures like draft stoppers, thicker curtains, and extra blankets have become the norm. Yet these small efforts barely offset the steep rises in bills. As 2025 progresses, energy costs remain one of the most visible reminders of how fragile financial security has become, leaving many households to wonder how long they can endure another harsh UK winter under such conditions. Number 4. Healthcare delays. Families across the UK are facing record-breaking delays in healthcare access throughout 2025. The National Health Service, long regarded as a backbone of British society, is now overwhelmed with staff shortages, underfunding, and surging patient demand. Waiting lists for routine operations stretch into months or even years, while GP appointments remain difficult to secure. Families with elderly members or children requiring specialist care are often left in limbo, forced to manage conditions at home without adequate medical guidance. The stress of waiting for vital treatment has become a normal part of life, leaving households to balance patience with desperation as they navigate a system under immense strain. The emotional burden of these delays is profound. Parents feel helpless watching their children endure untreated conditions, while adults of working age struggle to stay productive at jobs despite unresolved health issues. Delayed treatments often worsen conditions, meaning that by the time families finally gain access to care, problems have escalated into more serious or costly complications. Studies have shown that prolonged healthcare delays significantly increase risks of hospitalization and reduce recovery outcomes, particularly for chronic illnesses. This reality has transformed minor health concerns into major family crises, pushing many into private care if they can afford it, or leaving others stuck in cycles of pain, anxiety, and uncertainty. The NHS, once a source of collective pride, now feels like a system many families can no longer rely on when they need it most. In response, families are seeking alternative solutions, though none are ideal. Some turn to online consultations or pay for limited private treatment, straining already tight budgets. Others rely more heavily on pharmacies for advice, using over-the-counter medications to manage conditions that should be professionally treated. Community support groups and local charities have also stepped in, offering guidance or limited health services where the NHS cannot deliver. While these coping strategies offer short-term relief, they highlight the fragility of the system and the inequity between families who can pay for private options and those who cannot. Number 5. Childcare challenges. For families in the UK, childcare has become one of the heaviest financial and emotional burdens in 2025. Costs for nurseries, preschools, and after-school programs have soared, leaving many parents questioning whether working full-time even makes sense. Reports show that childcare fees now consume a significant percentage of household income, often exceeding rent or mortgage payments. Families who once relied on two incomes to maintain stability are finding that nearly one salary is being absorbed entirely by childcare expenses. This situation has forced countless parents, especially mothers, to reduce their working hours or leave their jobs altogether, creating long-term financial strain and widening the gender pay gap. The impact is not only economic, but also deeply emotional for both parents and children. Parents feel trapped between the desire to provide for their families and the guilt of missing out on early childhood experiences due to work commitments. On the other hand, those who give up employment often feel isolated and anxious about future career prospects. Children, meanwhile, face the consequences of a system stretched thin, overcrowded nurseries, limited resources, and less individual attention. Studies consistently show that high-quality childcare is linked to improved social and cognitive development, yet many families are unable to access such services due to prohibitive costs. This leaves children at risk of falling behind before they even enter formal education, a reality that weighs heavily on parents already stretched to their limits. Families are experimenting with different strategies to manage the crisis, though each comes with compromises. Some rely on grandparents or extended family, creating new pressures for older generations who may not be physically capable of daily childcare. Others join local cooperative childcare groups, where parents rotate responsibilities, but this often works only in small, close-knit communities. A growing number of families turn to part-time work, freelance opportunities, or remote jobs in an effort to balance childcare responsibilities with earning potential. While these solutions provide temporary relief, they are far from sustainable and highlight the absence of a broader policy solution. For UK families, the challenge of childcare in 2025 is more than a scheduling issue. It represents an ongoing struggle to secure both financial stability and a nurturing environment. Number 6. Education pressures. Across the UK in 2025, families are grappling with the growing strain of the education system. Budget cuts have left schools underfunded, resulting in larger class sizes, fewer teachers, and reduced extracurricular opportunities. Parents report that their children are receiving less one-on-one attention, which directly affects academic progress and overall confidence. For many households, the promise of a strong public education feels increasingly out of reach. Research highlights that overcrowded classrooms contribute to declining literacy and numeracy rates, leaving parents anxious about whether their children will have the skills needed to compete in an already difficult job market. Families are therefore stepping in to fill gaps the system can no longer cover. The emotional weight of these pressures is felt most strongly at home. Parents often spend evenings helping with homework that schools are no longer equipped to support fully, creating tension in households already stretched by work and financial demands. The pressure to succeed also impacts children, who are exposed to constant testing and academic evaluations, while lacking adequate resources. Many students experience stress and burnout at younger ages, with mental health concerns now a regular topic of discussion in schools. Parents find themselves balancing encouragement with concern, worried that pushing too hard may damage their child's well-being, but equally afraid that not pushing enough could leave them behind. Studies confirm that children in underfunded schools are more likely to struggle academically, setting in motion long-term disadvantages. To cope, families are turning to private tutoring and online resources, but these come at a cost. Wealthier households can afford extra lessons, while lower-income families are often left without options, deepening educational inequality. Some parents experiment with homeschooling or supplementing learning through community groups. Yet these solutions require time, energy, and knowledge that not every household has. As technology plays a greater role, many families rely on digital platforms for additional support, but not all children have equal access to reliable internet or devices. These disparities further widen the gap between students. For families across the UK, education is no longer seen purely as a pathway to opportunity. It has become another daily struggle, where the difference between thriving and falling behind is often determined by money. Number 7. Transport costs and strikes. Transport has become a daily struggle for families in the UK in 2025, with rising costs and persistent strikes disrupting every aspect of life. Fuel prices remain high, making car ownership increasingly expensive, while public transport fares have climbed to levels that many households find unsustainable. For families commuting to work or taking children to school, these expenses consume a significant portion of their monthly income. Reports show that transport costs in some regions now rival the cost of rent, creating impossible choices for households already stretched by food and housing bills. Instead of providing mobility and opportunity, travel has turned into a constant financial drain, further widening the gap between urban and rural communities. Beyond the financial burden, strikes and service disruptions have created chaos in everyday routines. Train cancellations, bus shortages, and overcrowded services leave families struggling to plan their days with certainty. Parents often arrive late to work, children miss lessons, and medical appointments or childcare arrangements are frequently thrown into disarray. The frustration and stress caused by unreliable services erode confidence in the transport system, which was once viewed as the backbone of modern British life. Studies highlight that inconsistent transport access directly reduces productivity and family well-being, with workers spending more time commuting under difficult conditions and less time at home. Families are left feeling powerless, caught between high costs and poor reliability. To adapt, households are searching for alternative strategies, though most come with sacrifices. Some families are turning to cycling or walking where possible, but these options are not always practical for longer journeys or for families with young children. Carpooling and ride-sharing arrangements help to reduce costs, yet they require careful coordination and depend heavily on others' schedules. Remote working, while helpful for some, is not available in every sector, leaving many households unable to escape daily travel struggle. Even those who attempt to save by purchasing season tickets face the risk of wasted money during extended strikes. For UK families in 2025, transport is no longer a reliable system of mobility, but rather a daily uncertainty that disrupts stability, drains finances, and tests patience at every turn. Number 8. Job insecurity. Families in the UK are living under the shadow of growing job insecurity in 2025, with many workers uncertain if their income will remain stable from month to month. The rise of automation and artificial intelligence has reshaped industries, eliminating traditional roles in manufacturing, retail, and even professional services. At the same time, zero-hour contracts and short-term employment dominate sectors like hospitality, logistics, and care work. This unstable environment makes it difficult for families to plan ahead, budget effectively, or feel confident about their financial future. Research shows that job insecurity not only reduces household income, but also has ripple effects on mental health and overall life satisfaction, leaving families constantly anxious about what lies ahead. The emotional strain of instability is felt across entire households. Parents worry about how sudden job losses could affect their children's schooling, housing, or even the ability to afford daily necessities. Workers who juggle multiple part-time jobs often sacrifice family time, coming home exhausted with little energy left to spend with loved ones. The uncertainty around employment also undermines long-term aspirations, with fewer families willing to take on mortgages, save for higher education, or invest in small businesses. Studies confirm that households facing insecure employment report higher levels of stress, relationship strain, and poorer physical health outcomes. This fragile environment has made many families feel like their stability could collapse with just one missed paycheck. In response, families are turning to adaptive yet imperfect strategies to manage the risks. Some individuals are retraining in sectors less likely to be automated, such as healthcare or skilled trades, though these paths require time and resources. Not everyone has. Others rely on side hustles, freelance work, or gig economy platforms to supplement income, but these often come with no benefits, no pensions, and unpredictable pay. A growing number of younger families are considering relocation abroad, seeking better job security in countries with stronger protections. While these approaches offer short-term solutions, they rarely provide lasting stability. For many UK households in 2025, the fear of unemployment is not just an economic issue, it has become a defining feature of daily life, shaping choices, relationships, and the very sense of what the future might hold. Number 9. Immigration and community tensions. In 2025, immigration remains one of the most debated issues across the UK, and families feel its effects in everyday life. Policy changes, tighter border controls, and heated political discussions dominate headlines, but the impact is far more personal at the community level. Families in urban areas often report struggling with increased pressure on housing, healthcare, and schools, leading to a sense of competition for already scarce resources. For immigrant families, uncertainty around visa renewals, residency rights, or potential deportation creates constant stress. Studies highlight that when immigration policy becomes unpredictable, entire households face instability, as parents and children fear their lives could be uprooted at any moment. The emotional toll on communities is profound, as tensions rise between groups trying to coexist under strained circumstances. Families who have lived in the UK for generations sometimes feel disconnected from neighbourhoods that are rapidly changing, while immigrant households often face discrimination or social exclusion. Parents are left with difficult conversations at the dinner table, explaining to their children why classmates, neighbours, or even teachers may view them differently. For children, this can lead to confusion, low self-esteem, and anxiety about belonging. Research shows that social cohesion suffers when economic hardship coincides with migration debates, fueling mistrust and polarization within local communities. This division extends into everyday life, from playgrounds to workplaces, making simple interactions feel charged with tension. Despite these challenges, many families are finding ways to build bridges, though progress is uneven. Community centres, local councils, and grassroots organisations are creating spaces for dialogue, cultural exchange, and shared activities that bring people together. Families participate in neighbourhood events, language classes, or volunteer programmes designed to foster understanding. While such initiatives show promise, they often lack funding and reach, leaving many households without support. For families across the UK, the reality of immigration and community tensions in 2025 is not limited to political rhetoric. It shapes schools, workplaces, and neighbourhoods. The everyday struggle lies in balancing cultural identity with shared responsibility, as households search for ways to create unity in an environment often defined by division and uncertainty. Number 10. Mental health struggles. By 2025, mental health has become a central challenge for families across the UK, with stress, anxiety, and depression now part of daily life for many households. Rising living costs, job insecurity, and housing pressures combine to create an environment where families feel under constant strain. Parents worry about making ends meet, children face unprecedented academic and social pressures, and older relatives often struggle with loneliness and declining support networks. NHS reports highlight a sharp increase in prescriptions for antidepressants and referrals for counselling, yet access to services remains severely limited due to long waiting lists and staff shortages. Families are left to cope largely on their own, turning what should be manageable concerns into prolonged and overwhelming struggles. The emotional impact inside households is undeniable. Parents under pressure often find themselves short-tempered, leading to strained relationships and less time for positive family interactions. Children pick up on these tensions, with many showing signs of anxiety, withdrawal, or behavioral issues at school. Studies link financial and social stress directly to deteriorating mental well-being, and families describe the sense of living in survival mode rather than enjoying meaningful daily life. The stigma around seeking help still lingers in some communities, leaving many reluctant to share their struggles openly. This silence isolates families further, compounding feelings of helplessness and fear. For households already facing other insecurities, poor mental health becomes the invisible weight that makes every challenge harder to overcome. Families are turning to coping strategies that vary widely in effectiveness. Some find relief in local support groups, mindfulness practices, or physical activity, while others rely on digital resources and helplines as substitutes for professional care. Religious or community organizations often provide a sense of belonging, offering safe spaces to share burdens. Yet these solutions are unevenly distributed, leaving many families with little access to meaningful help. Younger generations, more open to discussing mental health, push for awareness and change, but progress remains slow compared to the scale of need. For millions of families in the UK, mental health in 2025 is not a distant issue. It is an everyday reality, shaping relationships, decisions, and the ability to imagine a hopeful future. Life for families in the UK in 2025 is marked by constant challenges that touch nearly every aspect of daily living. Rising food prices, unaffordable housing, and soaring energy bills have redefined what it means to simply get by. Families are adapting in creative ways, cutting costs, sharing resources, and seeking community support. But these solutions are temporary. The deeper reality is that the system itself feels fragile, and many households live with the weight of uncertainty hanging over their futures. The struggles are not isolated, they are interconnected, each one compounding the other until stability feels like a memory rather than a guarantee. These everyday battles are more than statistics or policy debates. They are lived experiences, children adjusting to overcrowded classrooms, parents juggling insecure jobs, and entire families navigating health delays and mental strain. For millions across the UK, the question is no longer about thriving, but about surviving each day as it comes. And in that daily survival, one thought echoes again and again. Is this still the UK we once recognised as home? If these struggles feel close to your own life, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments because your voice matters. And if you value content like this, please support our work by subscribing. It's just one click, but it helps us continue bringing these stories to light. Don't forget to check out our other videos for more insights into how life is changing across the UK.